Money can't buy happiness. I'm sure you've heard that 1,000 times, but I want to tell you why it can't buy you happiness, but why people keep chasing money. Because people are always going to chase money. And the reason people are going to chase money is because it is extraordinarily powerful, but it can't touch how you feel about yourself. So I think that people have been told lies about money, like we were talking about earlier. One of the lies that you've been told is that money isn't powerful. It's not going to make you feel the way that you want to feel. And the truth is, it isn't going to make you feel better about yourself, but it is the great facilitator. And so if there's something that you want to build, money is going to unlock that. Money can make you feel amazing, that you can do something incredible with your time, your opportunity, your knowledge. You can build something extraordinary that is this economic engine that serves people. I think entrepreneurship is turning your potential into skill set in a way that allows you to build this ongoing economic engine that allows you to create something that improves people's lives. That to me is entrepreneurship. And that's awesome. That feels amazing.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and I make these videos because in my first business, I was making $300 a month. I quit on my business partner, and the thing that saved me was studying the stories of super successful entrepreneurs. So I hope that this story today helps give you the motivation you need, because I still need it too myself.
So today, let's learn the 7 life lessons that I wish I learned earlier. Enjoy.
So money's more powerful than people think, but it doesn't make you happy. What makes you happy is striving to add value to people's lives, to improve every day. Those are the things that are going to make you happy. So even if you're trying to create a business and that business fails and you end up not only not making money, you lose money. The failure will suck, don't get me wrong. But when you're going all out every day and you're improving and you're helping people and you're bettering their lives and you're sincerely pursuing getting better so that you can serve people in a way that feeds you and gives you more energy than it takes, that is the juice. The greatest thing that life has to offer you is the following. Okay, I'm telling you this from the position of somebody who's made a lot of money. The greatest joy life has to offer, the highest amplitude joy that life has to offer is the following. You are working very hard. You are scaling a mountain, and that mountain is incredibly difficult. And I don't mean a literal mountain. You're building a business. You're working to become a great athlete, whatever. You are working your ass off. It is hard. You are on this mountainside. You have frostbite in your fingers. You can barely hold on, but you're going. You can't believe it. You look down. It is a terrifying drop. If you fall, you die. It's nerve-wracking, man. The stakes are high, but you decide you're going to keep climbing. You're going to keep climbing. And the moment where you're working your ass off, but you can see the ledge, you're about to get to it. It's all working. Everything that you've been busting your ass, it's actually happening. Oh my God. And if I get to that top and I push myself up, it's success. It's a buffet. It's an orgy. It's whatever. It's something incredibly exciting that you have just been so amped to get up there to. That is way more exciting than the success, the having of whatever it is that's on your mountaintop. It's that moment there where you're clinging to your fingers. You're clinging to the side of the mountain with your frostbitten fingers, and it looks like it's going to work, but it hasn't paid off yet. But if it does pay off, it will be extraordinary. That dream, that moment, it's all working. And if I pull this off, my dreams come true. That's better than your dreams coming true. Why? Because the way the human mind works, you can never eat a meal so satisfying that you're never going to be hungry again. You can never drink a drink so thirst-quenching that you'll never be thirsty again. You can never have sex so good that you never want sex again. It's just not the way that it works. We have this internal hunger that nature has given us to make sure that we keep going and we keep getting fed and we keep getting water and we keep procreating. We have to keep doing all this stuff. So you have, from an evolutionary perspective, buried inside of you an insatiable drive to keep going. So you can't ever have that thing. Even happiness is fleeting. You can't have happiness. You can't hold on to it. It's never going to be yours forever. It will come in and out of your life. But the things that create happiness, improvement, sincere pursuit, doing something you're passionate about, helping other people, those are the things that are going to make you feel the way that you want to feel.
Lesson number 2 is stop living in a state of envy with Mel Robbins.
Envy is one of the most toxic emotions that you can feel. And I know this better than most because I used to be so envious of people when I was younger. I could find any reason to be envious. And envy is different than jealousy because envy is when you not only want what the other person has, but there's a part of you that feels like they don't deserve it. That when you see a friend getting ahead or making more money, or they've got a new handbag, or they've got a better car or a bigger house, or they're going on a fancy trip, that you start to feel this toxic emotion called envy. And I'm telling you that if you're somebody who struggles because you feel envious of other people in your life, you have got to get a hold on this because it will corrode you. And the reason why envy is so toxic is because of the edge to it. I've made a lot of videos about the power of jealousy, not jealousy in a relationship, but jealousy of looking around and seeing people that are out there doing things that you're jealous of and using jealousy as a signal to pull you forward. Envy corrodes you. Envy makes you stuck. And the reason why envy is so dangerous is because there's an undercurrent to it that none of us talk about. And this is what it is. When you're envious of somebody else, deep in your heart, you have a belief that because that person got that handbag, or they got that promotion, or they got to go on that trip, that somehow their success, their good fortune, it's robbing you of yours. That there's only so much happiness, there's only so much money, so many trips in the world to go around, and if you see somebody that's doing something that you want, they just took it away from you. So this is why envy becomes so dangerous to you. Because if you live your life believing there's only so much in the world to go around, you are living your life in conflict with the fundamental laws of the way that the world works. When you think about abundance, when you think about possibility, when you think about dreams and success, those are infinite. Abundance means that it is there for the taking for everybody. That there's no limit to the amount of happiness or kitchen renovations or designer jeans or promotions that can go around. And when you allow yourself to live in a state where you're envious of other people, you are living your life believing that there's only so much happiness. And somebody else getting to be happy, somebody else getting to get engaged, somebody else getting to launch that business somehow robs you of yours because there's not enough to go around. You have got to change it. You have got to first and fundamentally believe that there is success, happiness, money, riches, possibility for everybody. There's enough for everybody. That nobody's in competition with you. And that in fact, when you see somebody that has something that you desire, you should be happy. You want to know why? You should be happy because it's a sign that it's possible. It's a sign that it's coming to you. It's a sign that you're on your way. If you allow envy to creep in, you have now aligned your life with the belief that there's not enough to go around. You need to stop that right now. So bottom line, envy, knock it off. It will never help you get what you want. In fact, it's going to keep you stuck and miserable. So do the work to catch yourself when you're feeling envious and remind yourself that if you want abundance in your life, you better start believing that there's enough for everybody to go around, and you better start learning how to be happy for other people.
Lesson number 3 is take action with Jay Shetty.
On the subject of happiness, I think you would agree that we're suffering from an epidemic of loneliness and depression, and people are seeking for answers in different ways of living. They're sensing their lack of contentment with the path that they've chosen for themselves. And you go online and somebody's telling you to, find your bliss or, seek out your passion. And I think that's, although perhaps coming from a good place, is not necessarily helpful and perhaps damaging, because it leaves that person thinking, well, I don't know what my passion is, or, I'm not happy, but I don't understand the path forward to find that happiness. And I'm unsure about what steps I need to take in order to gird my life with more purpose and to try to find more fulfillment. So with the experiences that you've had, like, how do you speak to that person or meet them where they're at to try to get them to reframe their perspective on how they're living?
Yeah, so I think first of all, it has to be a twofold approach. And what I mean by that is there is an aspect of it that is thinking and reflection, and there is a part of it that is action and experimentation. These are the two aspects of anything in our life, and the biggest mistake we make is we do too much action and experimenting without reflection, or we do too much reflection without action and experimentation. So let's break them down. So let's start with the thinking and reflective approach. This is an approach you can do on your own. This is the approach you can do right now listening to this. This is the approach that half of it that I lay out in Think Like a Monk. So the first thing I ask people to reflect on is 4 areas. The first area is things that you have an expertise in, but have no passion for. Make a list of 3 things that you have a expertise in, but no passion for. So for me, I give the example of Microsoft Excel and numbers. I'm okay at it, but I don't enjoy it. Like, I don't have a passion for it, right? So write down 3 things in there. Then the next box that I want you to fill out is ask yourself, what do I have no expertise in, but I have a deep passion for? So for me, it's neuroscience. I'm not an expert in neuroscience. I couldn't perform brain surgery on anyone, and I couldn't scan anyone's brain, but I'm super passionate about it. I love reading about it. I love speaking to neuroscientists. It's something for me. Social media used to be in that category for me once upon a time. Social media was something I wasn't an expert in or didn't know much about, but I was passionate about learning how to communicate. Then the third box, things that you're no expertise and no passion. What are those things in your life that you're like, ugh, don't like them, not good at them, right? Maybe doing your taxes, I don't know, whatever, right?
Like pretty much everything else.
Everything else, yeah. And then the fourth and final box is, what are you passionate about and what are you an expert in? That's the box that you're trying to find. So that box may be empty right now. This is the thinking of. So do that reflection exercise. The reason why it's so important is because most of us, first of all, don't even know what our expertise is and our passion is. And now when I say passion, I'm not just saying find your passion. I'm saying, what do you like doing? What do you get joy from reading about? Even if you're watching a TV show, what is it about that TV show that keeps you captivated? Well, when you're listening to this podcast, what part about it, which person stands out to you? It's you having to read in to every part of it's like, start with something as simple as, what's your favorite cuisine? Most people go, I don't know what my favorite cuisine is. Well, think about the last time you walked out of a meal, you were happy when you ordered it, you're happy when you ate it, and you were happy the next morning. That's probably your favorite cuisine. Try and find those patterns in your life, because all of us have a karmic pattern in our life that we've just not zoned into. So I'll give you another example. Let's look at the pattern of the best decisions you've made. If you looked at the best decisions you made in the last decade, and let's say you pick 3, right? 3 is a pattern for me. That's where I'm making that up. It's totally my choice. It's subjective, but it's my opinion. 3 things are a pattern. Look at the 3 decisions you made in your life where you knew it was the best decision when you made it. Not when you got the best result, but you knew it even before the result happened that you made the best decision. I guarantee you, if you reflect on those 3 decisions in the last decade, you will find the same parameters, the same environment, and the same decision-making thoughts and thought process that got you to your best decision. So I'll give an example. When I decided to become a monk, I believe that was my best decision when I made it, not because one day I'd be able to write a book about it, because I had no idea I'd even be here. So I was going against the grain. No one agreed with me, and most people thought it was the worst idea. When I left being a monk, I was going against the grain because most of the monks I joined with stayed as monks. No one agreed with me, and I was completely sold that I was doing the right thing for me. When I quit my safe corporate job to do what I do now, I was going against the grain because most of my friends were happy with their salaries. I was doing something that felt really right to me, and no one agreed with me. And so I found that that's generally the pattern of my life. My best decisions are those 3 things. Now that may not be for you. Your best decisions may be the opposite. So that reflection is really important. Second half, action. Take the next month, take the next 30 days, and every weekend, plan a new activity, workshop, seminar, course, book, podcast to listen to, person to shadow, person to experience with. Take a Saturday and Sunday and try it out. You've got 8 things that you can now test. There are 8 days, 8 weekends in a month, roughly. Test something new on each of those. Go and actually do something. So this is no more thinking, no more reflecting. If you want to be a chef or you think you want to be a chef, go and do a cooking class. See how natural it was for you. See how much fun you had doing the process. Take 8 different things and try them out. When you do both of those together, within 30 days, you could figure out what you genuinely are passionate about as a starting point. That may change, it may evolve, but at least you've got somewhere to start. And the biggest mistake is we're sitting there doing a personality test trying to figure out what our passion is. Obviously, you're not going to know.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
Lesson number 4 is fight for success with Dean Graziosi.
If you're a little confused about money, if you're a little guilty to make money, if you're a little bit guilty that you're here, that you want to make more money, I got to get that crap out of your system, because that is just a lie someone else downloaded into you. I want to tell you, when I was able to get money so it wasn't the front and center worry of my life, guess who was left standing in the mirror? Just me. I didn't have to worry about the rent. I didn't have to worry about the car I wanted. I didn't have to worry about my kids. Only person standing. I couldn't use that excuse of, I'll worry about this later. Let me just slam a drink and keep moving harder. Let me just do this, or let me be distracted. When I was in my 20s, I dated obsessively. I went out and partied a lot. Like, I always found a way to hide the crap that was living inside, and most of it was through work. If I was gonna say I was an aholic of something, I was a workaholic, for sure, in my 20s. And then guess what happened by the time I was 30, 35? I started getting successful. I started paid off all my debts. I retired my parents. I get in my 40s and I'm really successful. And I don't have to think about money anymore. I don't have to worry about it. I worry about my companies, my family, and all that stuff. And the only person left standing in the mirror was me. What I'm telling you, what success can do, it can allow you to spend the time on the things you really need to do, that you're avoiding through work, you're avoiding through cocktails, you're avoiding through surfing on the internet, avoiding because you binge out on Netflix, avoiding through sex, through anything. There's things that we can put out there to hide and mask. And when you get money out of the way and you get to look at you in the mirror, you could say, now it's time to be a better version of me. And if anybody would have ever told me that in my 20s, I'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? If I get money, I don't have to worry anymore. When I got money out of the way, the worry went up because I had nothing to worry about anymore except looking in the mirror and go, this guy's pretty screwed up. Like, you made the money, now let's find a way to be a better human. And when I got to work on me, I went from being, in my previous relationship, a good provider as a husband, an amazing dad, but I wasn't amazing. I got to work on me, and now I'm married to the love of my life, and I get to know what real love is, real compassion, real intimacy, real connection, real friendship. I get to be a dad that's completely connected to my children in a way that I thought I was, but in a whole different world, because I got the coaching, I spent the money, I spent the time. I interviewed people who are good parents and who have great relationships. I got to heal the child I was. I got to forgive my dad all the way. Completely forgive my dad. My heart is complete. There's no animosity anywhere for my dad. I won't die with any regrets. I think all the time, what regrets would I have? How do I solve them now? Right? And it gave me a freedom that I never realized existed. So if you want something today to fight for the person you're supposed to be, you're meant to be, fight for that. Fight for the healing that you could be. And then here's the cool part. Then, when I got that, and listen, I also know how many of you are successful in here. Please, I'm not talking to you like you have nothing, and that's not what I'm saying. But I want to tell you, this evolution is I got money out of the way, and I started seeing success. And then when I started becoming a better version of me, I got in better relationships. I was better to my team. I became a better trainer. I became a better human. Then all of a sudden, when I got my own money out of the way, I love that saying when you're on an airplane and it says, put your oxygen mask on first, right? Think about that. You put your oxygen mask on first, and then what's the next thing you do? Then you put it on other people. Once you get your oxygen mask on, then you could say, okay, I'm safe, I'm secure. You get to focus on the things that are really important. You see, I watched my mom and dad my whole childhood. They didn't even realize it. Now I'm older, I didn't realize it as a kid, that money was their number one thing. I lived in a trailer park with my mom. We couldn't even afford the rent. We got evicted from the trailer park we lived in and moved in with my grandmother. My mom worked 3 jobs. Money was always the thing. She was a slave to it. She didn't have a degree. My mother's the most beautiful woman on the planet, had dyslexia really bad and never really got that fixed, so she always considered herself not that smart. So she would never go for a real job, like something that filled her heart. She would go for cleaning houses and painting houses and cleaning up salons and cutting hair when she could on the side. And like, she did all these things, and none of those are disrespectful. She worked, right? But money was her thing. She didn't have time to work on her personal growth or work on her emotional intelligence or overcome the things that may have went a little sideways as a kid and try to heal that child that was scared. She didn't. My father was the youngest of 12, was beat physically really bad to where that's why he didn't stay married long. That's why he had 11 brothers and sisters and didn't talk to any of them. He was in a physically abusive relationship and never took the time to heal that or forgive himself or forgive his father, right? Because all he worried about was making the next dollar, right? I get that. Maybe that's one of the reasons I'm successful, because I saw both my parents struggle so much with that it's like, I want to get that crap out of the way. Like, they never had time to work on themselves, right? And I want to tell you, as a person who didn't come from anything and legit went to school without lunch money some days, that I always thought money was going to heal me. I just thought, I'll get more successful, get more rich, and I'll be good. It's kind of true, but not really, not in the way I thought. Being successful allows you to help flourish the economy, of course, but it also gives you leverage to help, to donate, to fix, to serve, to bring people together, to help make effective change. If you don't think money solves problems, then first off, I don't believe you've ever given enough away. Think about that one. If you don't think money solves problems, you haven't given enough away. When money is something that's on your list of things to worry about, and it should be. We can't do anything without money. We can't just sit at home and manifest everything to go great in our life. We'd love that, but they'll come throw you out of your house or your apartment. They'll take your TV, they'll take your car. We got to pay the bills, right? When money isn't as much of a worry, you get to focus on the things that are really important.
Lesson number 5 is experience everything with Sadhguru.
Can you give us 2 tips that you think that we could live to our peak as an example to others?
See, when we use the word peak, naturally you want to go mountain climbing, that means you want to do something others cannot do. Not necessary, because the peak is not in what you're doing outside, the peak is in the way you experience it, isn't it? Somebody can do something very small with very profound experience. Somebody can be doing big things without any sensitivity to what's happening around them. So essentially, what you're looking for, just look at this as yourself as a life. Right now you become so many social entities, you may be lost in that, but actually you're alive. Most people realize they're alive only when they're threatened with death. Till then, they're something else. They become so many other things. No matter what work you're doing here, you're just a piece of life, isn't it? It is a fortune that certain things happen through us, which will impact many other lives, wonderful. But still, this is a life. Only if this life functions in its best possible way, everything else will happen. Best possible way means what? Is this very clear that you're not taking your own apartment when you go, when you die and leave? You're not taking… They tell me you're creating very nice apartments, you're not going to take it, right? Your own accommodations you can't carry, you know that. So obviously, the only thing that is left here is the profoundness of your experience, isn't it? How profound is your experience? To make our life profound, somebody says, if you have education, you can do this. Well, everybody went to the university, I didn't. Somebody said, if you have money, you can do it. Everybody ran after it. Somebody said, if you can get married, it'll happen. Everybody got married. Somebody said, if you have children, then it'll happen. Everybody did that. Somebody said, this is not it, you must get power in the world. So people ran after that. Essentially, what should happen inside, you're trying to cause from outside. What should actually happen within you, you're trying to cause it from outside. Yes, it is possible, sometimes it can be stimulated from outside, but it has to happen within you. All human experience comes from within you, is that so? Your joy and misery, pain and pleasure, anything and anything, agony and ecstasy can only happen from within you. The question is only, your joy, your peace, your love, your ecstasy, is it on push start or is it on self-start? I'm talking about upgrading technologies. There was a time in 1950s or 1950s, if you bought a car, you needed two people to help you in the morning because it's a push start. If you got one in early 60s, it's a crank start, you need one person to help. Today all our cars are self-start, right? Technological upgradation. Things which are most vital to you, the profoundness of your experience, the pleasantness of your experience here, but right now it's all on push start. If you have to be happy, how many people we have to fix in this world? If you if you have to be peaceful, we have to fix the entire world. So there is an endless amount of conditions for your experience to be in a certain way. And in pursuit of human well-being, we've turned the world upside down, we've ripped the planet apart, but still we are not the most joyful generation. We are definitely the most comfortable generation ever. Never before another generation of people have enjoyed these kind of conveniences and comforts as you and me are enjoying right now, isn't it so? Never before. But can we say with all these comforts we are the most joyful generation? No, not true. I'm not saying we are more miserable, but definitely we are not the most joyful. Are we peaceful? No. Are we loving? No. So our experience of life is still like how the caveman's experience was. Same anxiety, that guy was worried, where's my food? You're worried, where is my next apartment? Endlessly, you think it's different, it's not different. It's rudimentary, isn't it? Hello? The idea of organizing our survival process the way we have organized is, we need not be concerned about it, isn't it so? Hello? You open the tap, water comes. Don't think it's small, it's a small thing. Just 100 years ago, water means you had to go to the river with a pot on your head. So today, all this convenience that we did, why? Because we don't have to concern ourselves with daily survival. Everything is organized. Now we believed if all these things are organized, we will sit here blissed out. Well, that's not happened. It's not happened simply because we have not taken charge of this. So peak of human life does not mean you climbed Mount Everest. I have gone up Everest, do you know that? No, you didn't know.
To the top?
Yeah, very top. Somebody went up there and took a photograph with my picture in his hand. So I believe I've been there.
It's much safer. It's much safer.
More sensible too. Because this guy who went there, took a picture with my picture in his hands, came down and said, Sadhguru, of 12 people that we started out, only 2 of us made it to the top. And I took the picture and I came down. We were there just about 40 seconds, right on the top, because winds were picking up speed. We had to come down. Only 40 seconds I looked around and I couldn't see a thing. And I came down. Now I'm wondering, why did I do it? Because you wanted to know the peak of suffering. It's not a simple physical challenge. Climbing Everest is not a simple physical challenge. I'm not saying you should not climb. All I'm saying is the peak can only happen within you. It will not happen outside of you. So, if the peak and the valley and the very bottom can only happen within you, people can sit in a palace and be depressed, like they're at the pit of their life, isn't it so? Hello? So similarly, if that is possible, you can sit on the street and be on the peak.
Lesson number 6 is shift your perspective with Ed Milet.
Today we're going to talk about the echo of life, or the echoes in life. And what I mean by that is, you know that when you hear an echo, you've said something, but there's a delayed response until you hear it coming back at you, and then you experience the result. And that's how life works. See, today, one of the reasons so many people are confused about their lack of success is because we live in a very immediate gratification type society, meaning people expect results to happen instantaneously because we can get access to information instantaneously. We can get on social media, we can get music, we can get a movie, we can get a Google search, we can get a book, we can get anything we want instantaneously. But what you can't get instantaneously is success in life. And we've been raised in a generation now, many of us, even older guys like me, we're programmed to get things right now. And this hurts us in life because we don't realize the echoes of life. See, for me, for example, when I'm having a difficult time in my life in one area or another, all I have to really do is look back 60 to 90 days, and it's the behaviors I had 60 to 90 days ago that are causing the results I get negatively right now. And so, like, for example, when I'm not really, progressing in my career or in my financial situation, if I look back 60 to 90 days prior, I stopped reading the books, listening to the audios, doing the things that grow my identity, and I pay the price 60 to 90 days later. In my body, when my body isn't looking like I want it to, if I look back 60 to 90, 120 days, that's when my diet got weaker. That's when my workouts weren't quite as intense as they were previously, and I pay the price 3 to 4 months later. This is true in every area of our life. Our lives are almost like reading a newspaper today, but we're reading the headlines from 90 days ago. And so that's what confuses people. They see the external results of their life, but if you read the newspaper from 90 to 120 days ago, that's where the news was made, not today. And so in every area of your life, you got it going right now, you got to fuel the fire. If you've got your business going, your finances going, your relationship going, your faith going where you want it to, you have to continue to do the activities that got you here in the first place, because 90 days from now, you're going to read today's news. That's how it works. If today's news is you stop telling the person you're with you're loving them, if you stop dating them like you did in the beginning, you stop treating them a particular way, you're going to pay the price for it in 90 to 120 days. If you're not eating the way you want to, when you eat a piece of cake, you don't see the fat deposit the next day. There's a delay. And so what happens is we do these negative behaviors, and because we don't see an instant pain or an instant consequence for it, we don't think the consequence is coming, but the consequences always come. There's a delayed consequence for everything we do. And so today, you're getting the external results of 90 days ago's headlines of what you were doing. And the mistake most people make is they get things going in their life, they get their business going, and they stop the very things that got them there because they believe today is the headlines. But you're going to read it in 90 to 120 days, you're going to pay the price. And so in every area, pour the flames on, pour the fuel on, do the things that got you there, but do more of it because there's an echo for today's behavior. The reverse is also true, and this is why most people give up on their dreams. Success, the echo is longer. In success, see, the negative comes 90 to 120 days, but the benefit, the gain, the increase, the result of doing the right things is often delayed by 6 months, a year, 18 months, 2 years, sometimes 5 years. And so what happens is most people make these investments, they do all of the work. It's almost like a bank account. They make the deposit, they make the deposit, they make the deposit, and then they quit before they get to make the withdrawal because they don't see the results. In success, remember this. You're making these deposits, you're doing all the right things. It's not 90 days later you get the result often. Sometimes it's not 120, sometimes it's not 6 months, sometimes it's not a year, sometimes it's 2 years, and most people can't wait to make the withdrawal because they don't see the immediate result, or they go, well, wait a minute. When I do things wrong, I pay the price in 90 days. If I eat poorly, 90 days later, my body doesn't look good. If I don't perform right in my business goes down 90 to 120 days later. If I don't read my personal development or listen to the podcast I'm supposed to, my identity shrinks 90 to 120 days. How come when I do the good things, the results don't come in 90 to 120 days? Sometimes they will, but oftentimes the delayed gratification, the delayed benefit is way off into the future. The people that win in life accept both echoes. I accept in my life, I know it's a law of the universe, I know it's a life law, that if I don't do the right things, 90 to 120 days, I'm gonna pay the price.
And lesson number 7, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is learn from mistakes with David Meltzer.
One of the biggest questions I get online is, what's my purpose? I'll tell you what your purpose is to learn as many lessons as you can. Because that's all life's about, is lessons. There's no great quandary about your purpose. Your purpose is simply to learn as many lessons as you can, and the lessons will keep coming. Right? And we put conditions and judgments on the lessons. We put qualifications on the lessons as good or bad, or you don't know. They're just lessons. All lessons to me are miracles. They're not mistakes. Right? You have a simple choice. And, I learned this lesson. Oh, it was a big mistake. Was it? No, it was a miracle. And so why do the same lessons keep coming? Right? This is the continuation of the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious. I believe that the reasons the lessons keep coming, the same lessons keep coming, so you keep dating the same guy, and you tell yourself, I'm not gonna date that guy again, and then you end up dating the exact same guy, he just looks different. It's because you haven't learned the lesson. So you can stop the cycle of the same things happening simply at a conscious level, learning the lesson, putting that lesson to practice every day into your neural pathways, and then it'll deactivate the DNA and shift your energy so those lessons won't be attracted to you anymore. There won't be an existence anymore because we live here, right, at this vibration. In order to do so, you have to understand those lessons. 2 things about lessons. Lessons are, right, besides being miracles, will keep coming. If they keep coming the same lesson, you got to change and learn from it, right? That's the only lesson that you've learned. Moreover, every lesson that you've learned in your entire lifetime, you're going to forget at one time or another. So don't beat yourself up about it, right? We're so hard on ourselves that we create resistance, shortages, voids, and obstacles that although we may be rooting for everybody else, we're not rooting for ourselves. So instead of saying make it, make it, make it, make it, we say make it, make it, make it, miss it. Right? They can, I can't. I hear it all the time. Why them, why not me? You're just creating resistance, voids, and shortages. It's really simple when you know that there's lessons that we're doing, and that I'm gonna forget every single lesson that I've learned. Here's the cool part about it. Where do we get empowerment from that? Simply that you have the capability to remember every single lesson and other lessons that you've never learned anytime. Everybody has that capability of remembering the lesson.
I know you all have big goals, big dreams, big aspirations, just like I do. You've got ambitions to become an amazing person, to build your career, to create, to contribute, to give, to be an awesome human being. But all of that is impossible without great habits set up. If you don't have routine and structure set up in a way that will keep you on track, then you'll fall off. And having new goals without new habits is kind of like, having a new car without wheels. The habits are the wheels. They're the things that make you able to achieve the goals. So you gotta have good habits. But the challenge for most people isn't that knowledge. I mean, you need to have good habits. It's, you can't keep the habit going, right? Have you ever started at the new year, you're gonna get healthier, and you start that habit of working out on a more regular basis, and then it goes away? Or you say, I'm gonna be more kind and more patient and more awesome to my partner, my lover, and you start being nice for 2 or 3 days, and then on the 4th day, you're a jerk, and you're like, what happened? I said I was gonna be nicer. It's that you didn't set up the most important thing you needed to maintain a habit. So what's the biggest secret I've learned in almost 20 years in this field? It's so simple, but most people don't have it. It's called trigger moments. You have to set up trigger moments to activate your habits. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say you want to become a better person. You want to become more kind, more patient, more loving with people. Now, you can just set that intention or write that down in your vision, or your journal, or set up on a vision board that you look at once in a while. But in day-to-day life, it's not enough. You need things to trigger you, to remind you to be that particular kind of person, right? It's almost like if you could have a little angel speaking in your ear all day long to tell you what to do and how to be, you'd obviously become better. Well, that makes sense. Well, let's use that idea. Let's use that idea by setting up alarms on our phones that trigger us to do the very things we need to do. This is gonna be so basic, you're gonna laugh, and then I'll also tell you how I've literally taught this to Fortune 50 CEOs, and they said it was the one thing that changed their life the most dramatically. So let's start with this. Let's have a goal in mind. Let's say you want to become more present and calm throughout the day. Again, you could write that down on a journal. I'm gonna be more present and calm. You could meditate in the morning saying, today I'm gonna be more present and calm. And you could start out with good intentions, but those fall apart without a trigger moment set up throughout the day to remind you that. So what if you did this? What if you just set up on your phone 3 alarms during the day with a label that said, close your eyes, take 10 deep breaths in, remind yourself to be calm. So let's say you're going through your day, it's crazy, right? It's 10 a.m. and all of a sudden, bing, your phone goes off, you look down and it says, close your eyes, take 10 deep breaths. And then again, it happens at 2 o'clock. And again, it happens at 6 p.m. And again, it happens at 8 p.m. What's gonna happen? You always look at your phone, don't you? It's gonna go throughout the day, you're gonna forget. And the funniest thing is, I've had so many people do this worldwide. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of people I've taught to do this, hundreds of thousands. And they tell me all the time, that changed everything. And you'll think, once you set it up, that the next day, you'll forget about it. No, that alarm will go off. You forgot you set the dang alarm. There it goes off in your face, and you're like, all right, I'm trying to be calmer and more present. Close my eyes, take 10 deep breaths, reground myself, here we go. You can't do it once a day. You have to have moments throughout the day that trigger you to enact the new behavior. I know this makes sense to you, but it's a challenge for a lot of people because they never set those things up. So what if you did it with an alarm? So for example, for me on the opposite spectrum, I don't want to just be calmer and more present. I want more energy throughout the day. So here's what I do. One of my big trigger moments is every time my butt hits a chair, I don't care if I'm on a plane or I was like where we're shooting here, I wrote a lot of my books here. I wrote the Motivation Manifesto here. I wrote The Charge here. And if I'm going to write, my butt hits the chair, I grab my phone, I open the timer, and I set 50 minutes. Now at 50 minutes, the timer goes, bzzz, it starts buzzing, and I look at that and I go, oh, that's my trigger to get energy. So I stand up, I go get some water, I take a glass of water, drink it down, I do some stretches, and I do some exercise just really briefly, or I'll go for a walk, whatever it is, but I'll do something that usually takes just 2 to 5 minutes. Then I'll sit back down, I'll set that 50-minute alarm, and I'll work. And what that does is every 50 minutes, it triggers me to change how I'm physically moving. It changes my attention so that throughout the day, I'm continually refreshed. So I never have that 2, 3, 4 o'clock time where I'm like, you know? Why? Because I've triggered my day so that my energy is maintained throughout the day. Makes sense, right? This could be as simple as, let's say you want to be healthier in your life. Okay, let's set up some trigger moments for you in this way. Let's say every time you drop off the kids, on the way back to the house, you stop at the grocery store and get some fresh produce. That's just a trigger. It's like, okay, did one thing, drop kids off. Now, tied to that, triggered from that action, drop kids off, is go to health food store. Or let's say you want to get healthier in the morning. One of the easiest ways to help people maintain a better exercise program is this. Set a trigger, you wake up in the morning, your first action is to drink water, put your exercise shoes on, you might get dressed if you were naked, just saying. So you get dressed, put your shoes on, you go downstairs or you go to the gym, and that's the trigger. You woke up, you do these actions. Nothing interrupts those actions, that's the action. And you have to have those set up. One of my other favorite trigger moments to set up is door frame triggers. What do you mean by that? When you walk into a new room, to have a psychological trigger go off in your mind that you've associated with that door frame. So let me give you an example. If I walk into my house at night, if I've been working all day and I'm gonna walk in, I'm gonna see my lady, I have it so when I ever walk through the doors of my house, 3 words repeat off immediately in my mind because I've done it so many times consciously. I went to the door, I said the 3 words, said the 3 words, said the 3 words, and I did this so many times that now when I walk through a door, my mind automatically triggers those 3 words, and I remember to be those 3 words. So what words would you love to have describe you as a person? That you would be happy if that was how people described you? What would those words be? Have those and now set them up in your life. I teach executives to do this as well. I have them have a door frame trigger when they walk into their office in the morning. As soon as they walk through that door frame, they have, boom, 3 words go through their mind about how they want to be perceived as a leader. I have them set up another door frame. Every time they walk into a meeting, into the conference room, when they walk through the doors of the conference room, they have another 3 words that trigger off for them. And it just reminds them how to be. So these aren't big, crazy things. A lot of people think they have to completely change their life. What would change your life completely is setting up more trigger moments and associations that when you see something, you do this. That when this action is taken, then that happens. That when you have the opportunity to set up alarms on your phone, you set them up so that you're interrupted in your everyday life to remind yourself to stick to the habits, to stick to the intention. You do that enough on a continual basis, you'll find yourself in so many ways completely rejuvenated, and I promise you'll stick to your habits even more. And once you do that, you know that everything changes.
The Dallas Uber driver.
Oh.
So as somebody who has gotten into countless Ubers, and some small percentage of them know who I am, and then of course they start asking questions. Talk to me about chasing your dreams and this quote that you have that an aha moment does not necessarily lead to an aha life.
Yeah, the Uber driver in Dallas that's in this book. I get choked up when I think about him. An aha moment.
Why choked up?
I get choked up because what happens for me every single day is, and you hear from people every single day, you've got millions and millions of people that are inspired by, empowered by, impacted by your content. There are people out there that use your work as a lifeline, and it is humbling. And what I am really present to in the work that I'm putting out, in the stuff that I'm sharing, whether it's my failures or the things that I'm using that are helping me in my own struggles, is just how much people are holding themselves back and how much pain people feel. Because most folks know what they dream about and what they want. And yet, they're spending all of their time and energy arguing against what they want. And so you can have all these epiphanies. I hope that when somebody listens to our conversation and watches this, that they have a massive aha moment. But it's not gonna mean shit if you don't take action and do something about it. The aha moment is the door that opens. But your new life does not begin unless you step through the door. And most people, and that's what was so kind of, the simple idea of high-fiving yourself, of encouraging yourself, of supporting yourself. Most people, when you have an aha moment and the door to your new life opens up, instead of going, I got this, let's go, and high-fiving yourself to step forward, most of us go, I don't know if I'm worth it. I don't know if right now is the right time to do this. I don't think I'm good enough. I've failed so many times, I can't go through that door. And that's the problem I want to attack right now. That there is somewhere in your life that you know what you want. You can feel it pulling you. And you are actively arguing against it. You're bringing yourself down. You're beating yourself out. Like, people will cheer for you and me, they won't cheer for themselves. I'm the same way. And so this Uber driver, the story that you're talking about, I get into the car and we start driving, and I'm on the phone as we're driving, and I'm having a conversation with somebody about this daytime talk show that I launched, which was a dream with Sony Pictures Television. And then Was promptly fired after season 1. It was a huge failure because we didn't make it to season 2. Huge failure in real world terms. Right. Massive success when it comes to the timeline of my life. And so I'm talking to this person about the talk show. I hang up the phone and this Uber driver comes alive. He's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're in my cab." And I'm like, "Why?" And he says, "Because I want to talk to you about something. I think you can help me." And I'm like, "Great, how can I help you?" And he says, "I have a dream of being a Oscar-winning actor and creating opportunities for other Black and Latino men to do the same in acting." And I'm like, "Freaking fantastic. What the f*** are you doing in Dallas?" Right? You know, the guy's 25. And so I go, the game is in New York and LA. I mean, sure, you can act, you can write stuff, you can be here in Dallas, but why are you not in LA? Why are you not in New York? And he's like, "You're right. I need to move to LA. I'm like, "Why not?" And he says, "I have $700 in my bank account." And I'm like, "That's freaking fantastic. You have $700 in a car? Dude, drop me off and get driving. What are you waiting for?" And so we have this whole conversation, and I write about it in this book, where I am actively arguing for his dream, and he is actively arguing against his dream. And what is so sad is throughout this conversation, Tom, he's like, "You're right. $700 could get me there. You're right. I am only 25. You're right. If I keep thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking about what I want to be doing, I'm not only going to drive in circles, my whole life is going to spin in circles as I think about what I want and I don't do shit about it." And then you are going to find yourself not at 25, but at 45 or 65, and you're going to be so filled with regret that you never put a bet on yourself. And so this conversation ends with him declaring that he's going to go to California and me giving him a bunch of tools that I talk about in this book. And the point of the story is, does he move or not? I don't know. The point of the story is it's so easy to see what somebody else should do. It's so easy to cheer for somebody else. We all do that, right? We cheer for our favorite sports teams. We follow our favorite influencers and authors. We plan birthday parties for our friends. We take on extra work from our colleagues. We support everyone around us. We do not know how to do it for ourselves.
When you're going on a long car trip, you take your car to the mechanic first, right? To get things recalibrated, realigned, and ready to go. That's our second M. How we're going to recalibrate for our new journey is to adjust our self-awareness. Neuroscientist David Eagleman says that as far as our brains are concerned as adults, we are more like our peers than our childhood selves. Yet when we think about who we are, we mostly base our ideas on our younger self. So tune up your self-awareness. You're going to go on a data gathering expedition among those who know you best. Simon Sinek, the author of Start With Why, has a great exercise for this. When people say, "I don't know what I'm good at," or "I don't really know what my unique abilities are," that's because it can be hard to get an accurate picture of yourself from the inside, right? There's a saying that you can't read the label from inside the jar. So you're going to ask people outside your jar to help you out.
Can you help me?
You're going to ask 3 to 5 people who know you well, it may be personal, professional, friends, to describe for you what makes you special. Ask them, Simon recommends, "Why are you friends with me? Why did you pick me as your partner? Or what makes me stand out as an employee? Or what do you really like about me as your parent?" Now beware, most people will answer first with something general. "You're smart, you're funny, you're a good listener." That's not deep enough.
Anything else?
Ask for more. For example, lots of people are funny. Why are you friends with me instead of someone else who's funny? Or lots of employees are dedicated. Can you give me more detail, like a specific incident or example that really showed you that?
Tell me more.
Then you'll start getting the truly helpful data and information, such as, "I love the way you use humor to make other people feel welcome and comfortable." Or, "You have this ability to take our discussions deeper by bringing in insights from lots of other fields."
That's very nice of you to say.
You'll start to see yourself through others' eyes and get an understanding of what's working, what your strengths are that you can go deeper on and maximize, and what makes you uniquely you. Here's an awesome idea. Convene a feel-good roundtable in person or over Zoom with a few good friends or family members, or even do this with co-workers, where you go around and tell each other some of your greatest strengths in detail. Then you're spreading the love and the joy and the support as well, and it doesn't feel as awkward as just asking it for yourself.
Please don't make this awkward for me.
Okay, so what else do we need to start a journey strong? We need some idea of where we're going, right? A map. That's our third M. You've just learned about all these great things you've got going for you, but no doubt you also have an area or 2 or 12, that's me, where you'd like to grow. So we're going to create a map of how to get there. And one way you can do that is to pick a mentor. Someone who embodies that quality or those qualities you're looking to grow this year. One of my greatest mentors is Martin Luther King Jr., specifically the way he inspired people for a meaningful cause and connected people through his powerful words. Maybe if you want to become better at relating to others, your mentor is Oprah Winfrey. Maybe if you want to be more strategic and thoughtful when it comes to business, it's your father or mother. That was the case for John Mackey, the founder of Whole Foods. His father was his business mentor for years. Maybe if you want to cultivate innovation or persistence, your mentor is someone like Sir James Dyson or Richard Branson. Next, figure out basic, simple ways to connect with your mentor regularly. If it's not someone you can connect with in real life, you can read their work, watch their videos, listen to a podcast, read about their lives, tape an inspiring fact about them or quote from them above your desk, or put it into your wallet. Remember, it's not that you want to mimic your mentor. You want to be yourself and combine those strengths you're developing with those great strengths you already have in place. But if you look at some of the geography your mentor has traveled, it can help provide you with your own map for developing those strengths.
Being proud of yourself comes from doing difficult things. If you want to have more self-love, more self-respect, more self-confidence, more self-pride, it comes from teaching yourself that you do difficult things. When something's easy for you and you win, you don't feel great about yourself, right? If you were going to, I use the example, if you're going to run a race against 3-year-olds, great, you could win that race backwards and blindfolded, right? Probably. So great, hey, you won, awesome. Other people might celebrate you. Other people might give you a ribbon or an award or some congratulations on social media. Other people might think that you're amazing, but you are not proud of yourself because it was too easy. And if you teach yourself that you only do the things that are easy, you are not going to love yourself or love your life. Everything great that you want is on the other side of doing difficult things. Here's why it's so important, is because when you get an idea, and I think you're a genius, right? I think you've got what I call Michael Jordan level genius at something. I think you're a genius. I think you are the greatest in the world at something. You're the greatest in the world at something. And it's probably not what your parents did or your grandparents did or the people in your community or someone like you was supposed to do, right? It's probably not that. It's something different. You've got great ideas. What ends up happening, you come with a great idea and then you believe a story why you can't do it. Maybe you're watching this video, you come up with an idea, or maybe you came up with a different idea this morning and said, I really want to do this. Here's a great idea. And then your brain immediately starts finding all the reasons why that's not going to work. It's not going to work because you don't have enough money, because you're not that kind of person, because you didn't go to school, because you don't have the connections, because you live in a different country, because, and then you believe the story why you can't do it. And this is a really destructive and negative pattern that happens over and over and over again. And maybe that happens right away. Maybe you get the idea and then right away you start killing it. Or maybe you get the idea and you start thinking great things, but then tomorrow you wake up and then you start the negative cycle of why you can't do it. Or maybe you tell your friends or your family and they tell you all the reasons why you're not gonna be able to do it. It's super destructive to come up with an idea. Maybe the most destructive thing that you can do for your mindset, for your self-love, for your self-pride is to teach yourself that you get an idea and you don't do it. That you get an idea and you play scared. That you get an idea and you play small. Because you're always trying to get the easy wins. Because you're always trying to do the things that make sense, as opposed to understanding that your brain operates by a place that currently exists and keeps you practical, safe, and scared, and your heart can create something brand new that's never been done before, but doesn't make logical sense because it's never been done before, right? That's what you really want to do. And so taking on the difficult things, not letting that be a reason why you don't take action, is super, super, super important. because everything you want is on the other side of difficult things. Your self-love, your self-respect, your self-pride will come from taking on difficult challenges. And one of the greatest things that you can ever do in your life is shifting your identity. This is what makes you proud. This is an identity game. What do you believe about yourself by yourself? What do you look at when you look in the mirror? Do you see somebody who loves themselves, who's proud of themselves, who's a kick-ass person today, or not? For too many people, they're not. And so you get wrapped up in the self-esteem of likes and comments on Instagram and YouTube and Twitter and Facebook because you don't love yourself and you're hoping that somebody else who's giving you some love will permeate. But it's a cheap substitute. It's a cheap substitute because the inside game, the most important game, is you learning to be proud of yourself without needing the external validation. So how does that come? By doing difficult things. By taking the ideas that you have and starting to implement them, especially when you don't know how it's going to work out and you don't believe that somebody like you could do it. The two ways that I do it are, one, if I ever hear myself say scary, difficult, or hard, right? Scary, difficult, or hard is not an acceptable reason anymore. I can't tell you the number of times I'm coaching entrepreneurs or seeing in the DMs, like, I really want to do this, but I'm scared. You've accepted the fact that you're scared as being a good enough reason. That's what we need to destroy. That mindset is the exact thing that has to be exploded. I really want to do this, but I'm afraid. Great. Fear is not a good enough reason. Not anymore. Not for you. Scary, difficult, or hard. If you say those words, if you see yourself typing out those words as a reason for you not to take action, you have to start to trigger yourself. I use those as triggers. I call them play bigger triggers. They're triggers that make you play bigger, right? Triggers that force you to play a bigger game. Scary, difficult, or hard. When you see it, when you say it, when you're thinking it, when you're writing it down, now it means you have to do it. Because being afraid is not a good enough reason for you not to take action. The second is what I call the boom, boom, boom test, which is when your heart is beating really quickly. You get an idea, you want to do something, but instantly your heart starts beating quickly. It's the same thing. You're still just nervous. You're still afraid. You still think it's too difficult. You still think it's scary. The difference is instead of verbalizing it or thinking it, you're feeling it in your body. So some people are much more vocal and you think a lot, and some people, they're more physical and you feel it in your body. Either way, either the boom, boom, boom test or you say scary, difficult, or hard, that means you have to do it. It's the single greatest identity shift that you can ever make for yourself. That when you come across something that's difficult, you're going to take action on it. That you are tired of playing small, tired of thinking small. Even if you're good at the thing, you don't want that life. That's a boring life. If you only did the things that you knew how to do, that you were good at, you're basically living your life photocopying one day after another. You'll get bored of it. You'll start to hate your life. You'll start to search for more meaning. But you've tied your identity to the person who wins as opposed to the person who tries really hard, right? And it's a big shift because if you woke up and you tried your best every day, you're rewarding the effort, not the result. If that's what you did by doing difficult things, if you tied your self-esteem to doing difficult things every day, you're going to create amazing things even though most days you're going to fail. If you tied your self-esteem to just winning all the time, then you're always going to play a small game because you're only going to enter into the races where you know you're going to win. Therefore, you play small for life, photocopy every day, and end up hating your life. Self-pride. You want to be proud of yourself? That's the only game that matters. You want to be proud of yourself, you have to teach yourself that being scared, doing something difficult, the fact that you're afraid, they're not good enough reasons for your procrastination. Not anymore.
I don't know how many of you have read Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, but I would highly recommend that. In Crime and Punishment, the protagonist commits the perfect murder, and he has his reasons for it, and many reasons, because Dostoevsky didn't mess around. When he wanted to give someone reasons, he gave them reasons, and Raskolnikov, the main character, had reasons for murder. And then he commits his murder, and he gets away with it. But things don't go well for Raskolnikov, because one of the things he finds out is that the Raskolnikov that you were before you committed the murder is not the same as the Raskolnikov as you are after you've committed the murder. And there's a dividing line there that you don't, it's like the red pill, I guess, right? It's that's the Matrix, correct? The red pill. And once there's certain actions, once you take them, there's no going back. And so that's what Crime and Punishment is about. And Raskolnikov tortures himself to death, well, not literally, but metaphysically, psychologically, because he cannot tolerate breaking the great moral code. And so it's a great book. It's truly a great book. And it's also extraordinarily, like it's a murder mystery thriller as well as being a deep philosophical book. So if you're in the mood for, a murder mystery thriller that's also a deep philosophical book, then that's the one for you. Human consciousness is that faculty that confronts potential itself. I think there's good neurological evidence for this, by the way, for those of you who are scientifically minded, because we build circuits within us for habitual action that we've practiced many times that seem to run in a very deterministic fashion. And we are a strange combination of deterministic and non-deterministic as far as I can tell. But what our consciousness seems to be for is to encounter those things that we have not yet encountered. And those things that we have not yet encountered seem to me to be those things that have not yet been brought into being. And so you could say that what our consciousness is for the encounter with potential. That our consciousness is it's not for the past, it's not even for the present. It's to transform the future into the present. And really that's what our consciousness does. When you wake up in the morning, you have a new day ahead of you, and the day could take you in very many directions. And the weeks and the years, all of that can take you in very many directions. And you have some apprehension about what those directions might be. You have some apprehension about what role your choices might make in transforming that potential into one form of actuality or another. I mean, you certainly know that there are dreadful mistakes that you might be very tempted to make that would produce all manner of hell around you and still be tempted to do it. It seems like it's sitting there right in front of you as a possibility. You also know that, you could haul yourself up out of bed and attend to your duties and do the sorts of things that you're supposed to and set a few things right that day and that week, and that likely things would at least not be worse, and they would probably be better. And I do believe that I don't understand how this can be the case. I don't understand how it is that consciousness can function in that way, because I think to understand that, we would have to understand what it means for the future to be only potential rather than actuality, and who the hell understands that? I mean, no one. And then we'd have to understand how it is that our conscious choices and our conscious ethical choices transform that potentiality into actuality, into reality, into the present and the past. And we certainly act as if we believe that that's what we do. We upbraid ourselves. For example, when we do a bad job of it, we're upset with our children and those we love if we don't believe that they're living up to their potential. We're guilty and ashamed when we make choices that we feel are inappropriate. We understand to some degree that the manner in which time lays itself out has something to do with the ethics of our choice. And again, I would say that's a very deep idea. I think it's the most true idea I know. It's very emphasized, that idea emphasized in ancient religious stories such as those that are outlined in Genesis, or in Genesis with its strange insistence that, God is that which brings order out of chaos, formless potential, generates the world out of formless potential, and that we're somehow made in that image. Which seems to me to be the case. And that the proper way, by the way, to go about acting in that image is to act in relationship to the potential that confronts you with truth and with courage, with careful articulation. That's the logos. And that if you do that, then what you bring forth is good.
You need someone who you can trust. Like if you're giving someone your money, or you're trying to take someone's advice or counsel, you need to trust their intentions. All right. And so it's not just whether they have integrity, it's whether they have your best interest in mind. All right. So I'm going to get to how I solve for that in a second, but that is the first character trait that you need of a counsel, of somebody, of any kind of counsel, really, whether it's investment law, etc. The second is efficacy or their skill set, right? So let's think of different scenarios here. So let's say you might trust your mom implicitly, but she doesn't have the skill of knowing much about, how to structure insurance policies or trusts or, investments in tech startups, right? She might not have that skill, but you might trust her intention, right? For you specifically. On the reverse of that, you might see that there's this person who's got lots of skill, is prodigious in this, but it also means that they know exactly how to screw you if they want to, right? Which is one of the double-sided things of being really good at something, right? You know all the details, you know how to write the agreement, structure the deals in order to make sure that you get the best outcome, right? And so the idea is to find someone who has both your best interest at heart and has the ability to deliver on what you want, right? And so it's both of these things. And so you're like, well, yeah, maybe that seems obvious for me. Just even boiling it down to that was very helpful for me, because when I look through advisors, look for people I want to get counsel from, I have to look at these two things, all right? So here's how I test for the integrity piece. And here's how you can control for risk here, right? One is I always try and interview as many advisors as humanly possible, all right? And I do that because I'm going to get as much information from each of the counsel during this process that will give me perspective from which to make a judgment, right? One of the biggest problems with this, like if you think about Julie, who's trying to lose weight, right? She goes in the gym and then she talks to 10 personal trainers. One personal trainer says, it's all about high fat, low carb. Another guy says, hey, don't worry about that keto stuff. It's all about high carb, low fat. And then another guy says, no, you really just need a balanced thing. And then another guy says, it's only about calories. It's only about counting your macros. And so you get this huge perspective so that hopefully you can make a judgment call. Otherwise, when you talk to the first guy and he says, it's all about keto, then you're like, well, I guess this is it, right? I guess these guys all have opinions, when in reality, there is a truth. You just don't have the perspective from which to make a judgment yet. And so the first step in this is that I interview as many as I possibly can from reputable sources. So this is where I reach out to my network, I make posts, et cetera, to try and get as many referrals as I can. All right, so that's step one. Step two for the integrity piece is that I try and have aligned incentives. Now, a lot of times there are incentive systems that appear aligned but are not in reality. So let me give you an example. So in the real estate market, if you're a realtor, for example, you may think, oh, this realtor has my best interest at heart, right? Because they have an incentive to sell the house, and so that is why they're going to get compensated. So they want to sell it for as much as possible. But they aren't incentivized to sell it for as much as possible. They're incentivized to sell it as fast as possible and get a deal closed, all right? And so think about this. For you, selling a house for $500,000 that's worth $500,000 is a normal, that's normal. That's the market price, right? But for you to make an extra, let's say $25,000 or $50,000 would be really material. That would be a huge extra outcome for you. You would probably push a lot harder to get the extra $25,000 or $50,000. Now, let's say that you could probably sell it in a day at $450,000 because it's below the market value of the house, right? Now, here's what's crazy, is that if a selling realtor, total might be 7%, 2% goes to the buyer and 5% goes to the seller. If 5% is going to your realtor, 5% of $500,000, right, is $25,000, okay? And so for them, the $50,000 decrease to drop you from $500 to $450 means that they're going to give up $2,500. So they're going to make $22,500. So let me ask you a question. Now, in the reverse, if they sell for $525, they're going to get $27,500, right? And so it's a $5,000 swing off of a $25,000 nut for them, and one of them might take them 3 months, and one of them might take them a day. So what is their incentive? Their incentive is to make as much money as possible per unit of time. And so they're incentivized to sell as fast as possible. And so this is one of those things where you have to put your thinking cap on and say, are our incentives truly aligned? And so when we're looking at this, when I say there's two aspects that I look for counsel or somebody who's going to help me do something financially, legally, insurance-wise, whatever it is. So first is that integrity piece, and are their incentives aligned? The incentives being aligned, and you could restructure that deal and say, hey, you know what? You're going to get 0% on anything below $400,000. I'll give you 3% on anything between $400 and $450. And then from $450 and up, I'll give you 20%, right? Or 15% or whatever, right? And so now they're highly incentivized to push, and now your incentives are aligned because each increment for you is worth almost as much as it is to them. And that is how you would align incentives. All right. Now, how do you test for the second thing, which is their skill set? This one's hard, all right? Especially if you don't have the perspective from which to make a judgment, which when I enter new things, when I'm trying to learn about trust, when I'm trying to learn about investment things and different vehicles, I'm learning about storage units, I'm learning about you're like, oh man, there's so much stuff and there's so much nuance that you have to have, right? And so the first thing is I like to usually read 2 to 3 books on the topic, all right? And I read 2 to 3 books just so I don't appear like an idiot. And so I can at least understand what they're saying, and they're going to respect you. It's kind of like defense. If you bring at least some level of knowledge, they don't feel like they're going to take advantage of you. So So this is a first thing that I do, and this is because I don't like feeling exposed in these types of conversations. The second thing you can do is if you have someone that you can trust, you can bring them in alongside you. And the third thing that you can do, which is probably the most and highest recommended, is repeating the same action I said in the first hand, which is try and talk to as many of them as possible, and then you will gather the insights and you'll see the people who demonstrate the most expertise. And what you can do is take what one person says and say, well, what about this? And see what they reply with. Right? And as you gain more and more knowledge, and this is how so in the consulting world, this is qualitative research, right? This is where you're literally doing interviews, essentially, to gather information so that you can make an informed decision, right? And so when you do these interviews, and this is the lazy part, this is what most people don't do, is they won't do this work. Right? They won't take the time to interview 20 people or 10 people when in reality, these one decisions, the guy who you decide to, invest in their fund, or if you decide to buy this building or invest in a fund that buys X, Y, and Z, right? Or you have somebody who manages your portfolio, whatever it is, right? That one decision can be one of the most, if not the biggest influence on your total net worth over a long period of time. And people take more time to figure out where they want to go on vacation than where they're going to put their money. Right? And so my ask to you is that if you put these lenses on, think about both of these lenses. Lens one, do I think this person is integrous? Do I think this person has my best interest at heart? And then two, do they have the skill to deliver on that promise? Because I don't want my mom doing my investments. I know she has my best at heart, but she has no idea what she's doing. And then I don't want somebody who absolutely knows what they're doing and does not have my best interest at heart, right? Which honestly, unfortunately, is a lot more of the cases that you'll come up with. And candidly, a lot of times they're literally incentivized against you. In the insurance industry, they're kind of incentivized to rip you off. It's pretty terrible. And there's a lot of industries like that. Mortgage brokers are incentivized to rip you off. And so you really have to look at it from both lenses. And these types of decisions can make the biggest impact on your net worth and your financial future simply based on who you decide to work with.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome.
If you want to learn the 7 best lessons from billionaires, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe. I'll see you there.
That is amazing.
I've made so many foolish mistakes, I lost count, honestly.
I know people. I was trained to be a teacher. As a teacher, you want your students better than you are.